Now we're going to look at work in the field of human learning and information processing that occurs outside of our conscious awareness. During the 20th century, trends in psychology and psychoanalysis led to a wide divergence of views on the unconscious between the disciplines. Psychoanalysis adopted detailed case studies, whereas behavioral psychology, or psychometry, emerged from laboratory-based physiological experiments such as those of Pavlov. This division became even more pronounced in the UK and later North America by the development and growth of the psychometric and behavioural genetics approach of Galton. Galton's approach stressed the study of population characteristics compared to the case-based analysis of psychoanalytic schools. The other major influence on psychology was radical behaviorism, often based on case studies but completely rejecting any study of unconscious processes. An example of this is the controversial study of an acquired phobia in little Albert conducted by Watson and Rayner in 1920. They wanted to find out if they could program a child to fear something that was not feared naturally in the same way Pavlov had programmed dogs. Albert was an 8-month-old boy who was the subject of the experiment. He was placed on a mat and allowed to play with a laboratory rat. He enjoyed playing with the rat and showed no fear. Then, the experimenters frightened Albert by hitting a metal bar hanging behind him with a hammer every time he touched the rat. After a while, Albert had learned the association, and when the rat was brought in, he became distressed, cried, and tried to move away from it. This experiment would not be considered ethical today. It illustrates that the psychologists were interested in observed behaviour only, not thought processes, unconscious or otherwise. The psychoanalytic school was led by Freud, whose theory of mind was an early and pivotal attempt to explain human behaviour in terms of basic physical and chemical mechanisms without recourse to any religious or supernatural effects. The great significance of Freud's theory was in removing the last barrier to viewing humans as physical machines. This dealt what Freud called his third blow to the medieval theistic view of man. The first was the cosmological blow of Copernicus, who ended the geocentric view of the universe. The second blow was Darwin's theory of evolution. Freud considered the mind as an energy system. In this system, mental content does not simply reside in storage, waiting to be accessed, but exerts pressure on behaviour. Psychodynamic theory concerns the source of such energy, how it flows, gets sidetracked, becomes dammed up, and is expressed. The essential features of Freud's theory are that mental energy is strictly limited and energy used for one purpose is not available for another. Mental energy is conserved so that if it is blocked from expression in one channel, it becomes diverted inevitably into another, rather than disappearing. The mind operates to relieve tension created by bodily needs. For example, a shortage of food leads to a tension called hunger, which is eliminated by the mind by seeking environmental factors that mitigate hunger, namely food, and thereby achieving quiescence. All behaviour is directed towards achieving pleasure, either from the reduction of tension or the release of energy. These processes are largely unconscious. Freud proposed 3 different levels of awareness of mental processes. Level 1, the conscious level, are thoughts we are aware of at the time we're having them. This is still the definition used for the content of consciousness. Level 2, the preconscious content of the mind, includes thoughts and memories that we're not conscious of at the moment, but could easily become aware of if we attended to them. It includes things such as your birth date, or home address, or the outline and progress of projects you're involved with. Level 3, the unconscious content of mind, includes things that we cannot become aware of except under special circumstances. Freud's idea was that these are inaccessible because of the positive action of mental processes. They are suppressed because of the level of stress they create. The circumstances under which they become manifest, according to Freud, are slips of the tongue, neuroses, works of art, psychosis, and dreams. These unconscious processes nevertheless have a profound and continuing effect on conscious thought and behaviour. Freud's conscious and preconscious levels of awareness clearly do exist. He based his unconscious level on findings from hypnosis. Freud used the technique extensively but abandoned it because not everyone could be hypnotised. Under hypnosis, he found that patients can access verifiable memories they were previously not aware of. Freud noted that such recollections were often associated with strong and painful emotional reactions. More conclusive is that if a person is asked to remember something whilst hypnotised, then when they are woken up they cannot remember it, or they do not even know that they have forgotten it. Yet if hypnotised, again they often remember it, showing it must have been stored unconsciously. Freud added to his three-tiered theory of consciousness in 1923 with the three concepts of the id, ego and superego. He proposed the id as the source of all mental energy. Its purpose is simply to reduce tension arising from biological drivers to return to a peaceful mental state. It does this by following the pleasure principle of seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. The id is entirely unconscious and entirely uncomplicated. It does not plan or temporise, but merely seeks immediate pleasure or release of tension. It has a tenuous link to the physical world and can be satisfied by imagination as well as action. Freud's superego represents the learnt moral aspects of social behaviour, including standards of ethics and conduct. It's an internal model of the societal rules of the external world. The superego exists largely in the unconscious and has limited ability to interact with the external world. The ego is the principal constituent of the conscious mind and stands between the id and the superego. The ego directly controls conscious thought and actions and is guided by the reality principle. It moderates the demands of the id and superego according to what is reasonable and achievable in practice. Unlike the other two, the ego has the ability to plan, weigh options, and temporise. Freud's theory is one of an unconscious pressure cooker of highly motivational tensions and mental energy. These can be controlled and redirected, but they must be manifested, sometimes in ways apparently unrelated to their origin, such as irrational beliefs or psychosomatic illness.